Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. I'd like to introduce Steve Mayfield. He's a crime photographer for the Salt Lake City Crime Lab, and we're going to talk a lot about crimes and Mormons, so both good and bad. In our first episode here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Patty Hearst kidnapping case, and we'll talk about Mormon involvement. So it's going to be a fun conversation. I hope you check it out. I also want to remind everybody, if you'll please subscribe for $10 a month, I'll send you a transcript of this as well as our latest transcripts. I've just sent out Michael Quinn with that fun interview to all of our monthly subscribers. If you'd like a transcript, a paperback like that, go ahead and go to our Amazon website. But for just $10 a month, I'll be happy to send you a transcript, a PDF of this and all future episodes. So thanks again. Now back to our conversation. Well, welcome to Gospel Tangents.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have Steve Mayfield here. He is a documentation collector.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about Mark Hoffman. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. We're going to talk a little bit about the FBI and Mormons.
Yes.
Which I think will be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So Steve has some amazing stories. And so why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Okay.
How did you get involved in collecting?
Oh, gee. Well, I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. For those interested in genealogy, I'm a seventh generation Latter-day Saint. So my family history goes back all the way back to Ohio and one family line in Nauvoo. And I've always had an interest in history. When I was in high school, my desire was to be a history teacher, specifically maybe teach seminary or institute. But when I was a senior in high school, this is way back in 1974, most people were even around, we had one of these field trips to San Francisco, and it included, Golden Gate Park, the Chinese Tea Garden, an unofficial trip to the Haydash Ferry, for those who remember that area, and also a tour of the FBI office. And I just fell in love with what people in the FBI did, all that work, that I wanted to become the next Ethel Zillowitz Jr., who happened to be the star of the TV show FBI back during the 60s. After I graduated high school, I served my mission in Colorado and Nebraska. And in late 1972, I was assigned to way out east to Grand Island, Nebraska, which is kind of hard for a person used to mountains when it's all flatland and wintry. One of the members of the local LDS district presidency out there was also the local FBI agent. So we had a number of conversations, and I indicated my interest in working with the FBI, and so he suggested, well, get hired on as a clerk or clerical position with the Bureau, and then get a college degree, and then you might become an agent. So we put the paperwork in, and I came home in February of 73, and then by July I received my appointment to work as a file clerk in San Francisco. Was there for 4 years. Of course, all this time I'm worried, I love history, but yet I'm in law enforcement. How can I intermingle? Well, my whole working career has been in law enforcement, but I seem to have come across historical occurrences in each of the agencies I worked for. When I was at the FBI, I was there during an attempt assassination of President Gerald Ford. But more importantly, I was there during a very well-known case, this little kidnap case you might have heard of, Patty Hearst. I wasn't an agent, but I was involved in that in the fact that I was assigned to the Berkeley office of the FBI where the kidnapping occurred for about 3 or 4 months. And then I came back to San Francisco. I was there the day she was arrested and brought in.
Okay, well, let's back up a little bit, because I'm sure, I mean, even, I am not going to tell you how old I am. I'm older than I want to admit. But even for me, which I'm sure some people think, wow, he's an old man. I don't know the Patty Hearst story that well. So let's back up and talk a little bit about that. So actually, I believe her father was actually more famous than she was.
Yeah, well, her grandfather, the Hearst Corporation, which they're newspaper people. They owned one of the San Francisco papers, very wealthy family. They have the Hearst Castle down in Southern California, which is, you can't buy it if you even tried. And she was a little 19-year-old college student.
So let's talk about, William Hearst, is that what his name was?
Yeah, William Hearst.
So he was kind of the Bill Gates of his day, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a super rich guy.
Had these newspapers.
Had a bunch of newspapers.
Right.
And then let's talk a little bit of, wasn't it called the Symbionese Lebanese Army?
Symbionese Liberation Army.
So tell me about that first.
They were a group of radicals that were organized out of the prison system back in the 60s into the 70s, started by a black radical by the name of Donald DeFreeze. He incorporated some white folk around him who were radical, and this was a time when you had actual physical violence being portrayed. A couple of these members of the SLA killed the school superintendent out of Oakland, Marcus Foster, a guy named Russell Little and Joseph Romero, and they were caught. They committed, the SLA did a lot of other things, but they had a list of some violent acts they were due. One of them was to kidnap. Well, Patty is living with her boyfriend in Berkeley, going to school. They show up one day and break into the house and kidnap her. Boom. Well, it's, we want money, we want reputation. We want notoriety.
So this group, the Symbian Lebanese Army, were they just like just an anarchist group?
Yes.
Or what? They just
radical,
they just
terrorists.
wanted to create chaos.
Yes,
basically.
terrorists.
They didn't really have any strategic, big long-term goals.
Political, help for the poor, help for the minorities, but just and need to raise money. They were trying to overthrow the government, but you had a small group of maybe 8 people.
Okay.
Donald Freeze and these whole bunch of these white kids, white young folk. Bill Harrod. Now there was back in February of this year, CNN did a six-day special. Yeah, yes. And so one of the people interviewed was this William Taylor Harris. He was one of the people involved with that whole thing. He's been to prison, out, and whatever. So she was gone for a good period of time.
So let's back up. So the idea was this is just kind of a chaos group, right?
Yeah.
And they just wanted to sow chaos. How can we sow chaos? Oh, we'll kidnap the richest man's daughter in the world. That's basically what happened.
Well, a very rich man and a very well-known person. And slowly she would do these tape recordings that they would go to the media. Mom and dad. Patty Hearst would do these tape recordings. At first, she's a victim. But over time, she started changing to where, from being a victim, now she joins up with them. Now they're wanting money and they're running around doing various things. They did some bank robberies. Somebody was killed in one of the bank robberies. But now she's part of the radical group.
And she's part of the group that robbed the bank.
Yes.
Okay, so
she's gone from
a victim
to a member
now
of the
a perpetrator.
Yeah. And now she comes up. They gave her the name of Tanya. They all have their little names. So that's why you have here. This is a copy of the wanted poster.
A little higher. Okay. There's Patty Hearst right there.
And this is because
I think she actually didn't like the name Patty. I heard that on that CNN thing you were talking about. She liked to go by Patricia.
Yeah. But this is after she committed the bank robbery. So now you have a problem because she's a victim from a kidnapping, but now she's wanted for bank robbery and all these other things. So they've committed some crimes. They decide to go down to Southern California, which was probably the mistake. They'd stayed in the Bay Area where there was this radical movement. They had safe houses. They had friends that would support them. They went to L.A., completely different environment. Tried to get in down there, and that's when they got caught in one of these suburbs of L.A., and the police found them, and they had the shootout where the house burned and killed her. But Patty wasn't with them. The Harrises and Patricia Hearst were in LA, but they weren't there at that case where all these other members of the SLA were killed. And then Patty and the Harrises went back east, came back out, and eventually the FBI, and of course the FBI was criticized very harshly because, why can't you find her? Why can't you find her? But the FBI just started connecting the dots. Who we know knew Donald DeFreeze, who knew these other people, who were their friends, and eventually they connected the Celaya family, and they said, we know where they live. So they would do surveillance on these homes. And they saw the Harrises, and they saw Patty. And then one day they did the rush, they arrested him. Now, my interest obviously because I work for them, but also because there is a Mormon connection with the FBI, and in this case, the supervisor of the squad that handled bank robberies and kidnapping was a guy named Brian Wheeler, who at the time of the kidnapping was a member of the San Francisco Sunset Ward Bishopric. When they divided and made a special squad of agents just to work on that case, one of the agents was a guy named Jason Moulton. He is LDS, and he's one of the agents that arrested Patty Hearst. And on this CNN special, he's the FBI agent they interview on it. Jason retired about 15 years ago as the assistant special agent in charge of the FBI in Seattle. About 5 years ago, he and his wife served a mission out in Kentucky, short-term mission. So, but you had a number of other agents in the San Francisco division that worked on that case. Again, I had the involvement because I was in the Berkeley office. After she was arrested, myself and other clerks spent a whole week looking in all the evidence and all the materials they picked up. Then I had an opportunity on 2 occasions to go up and sit in on the trial. And I have sat a couple rows right behind Patty and her attorney, F. Lee Bailey.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The OJ lawyer.
Yes, which I learned that he was not much of a attorney at that time, and I've never been impressed with him. But so that was intimately involved in that thing. So that was these historical events. I'm saying, well, it's increased by history, and of course, that's when I started doing what you see around me. Is being a documentation collector. I collect newspaper clippings and things off the internet. I will tape record things off the TV and radio. That was a label that George Throckmorton gave to me. I'm not a document collector per se, in dealing with old documents, but they're connected because I collect these things now.
So you have a lot of newspaper clippings
Yes.
and things like that, and recordings.
And recordings. And a lot of this stuff has been donated to BYU. Since 2004, I've been donating my collection down there. And I'll share with other people. We were talking about Matt Harris. Well, I periodically I'll say,
well, let me back up before we do that.
Okay, yeah.
I noticed that that wanted poster you have is autographed. It looks like.
Well,
can you tell us who that autograph is?
well, it says Patricia Hearst. The problem is this is not an actual. This is not an actual. This is an original one here. This one is a photo.
Oh, it's a photo of the original.
And I don't know if that's a real autograph or not because there are some
We got
differences.
to talk to George Throckmorton to figure
I
out.
probably have to show it. I just bought it because I wanted a copy of her wanted poster, just her.
And then show us the other one that you
Okay,
got
this
there.
is the one. This is a legitimate, actual one of the original wanted posters of the Harrises and Patricia Hearst.
Wow, that's cool.
Again, this is one of the things. Before I left the FBI in '77, they were been authorized to get rid of some old files. So it became a kind of a free-for-all for getting things. They had like copies of Tokyo Rose's tape recordings.
Tokyo Rose.
She was this lady that was, during World War II, would send messages to the GIs and trying to convince them that they're going to lose the war. So
these were not Japanese propaganda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it wasn't on tapes, it was actually on records. That's how they recorded. Well, we're going to throw it away. Well, everybody started lifting these things. And wanted posters, they had wanted posters of some of the gangsters from the 1930s. They went in a hurry, And so I was able to snag a few things. But, people were making collection. I don't know if that was proper or not, but a lot of these historical things were being salvaged from the FBI files. So anyway, after I was there for 4 years, I came back. My folks had moved back to Utah, and I moved back here so I could go to Weber State, graduate in 1980.
Weber State, great.
Wildcats, yes.
There's not many of us around.
Yeah. That's that comment I made there for Boise in the Sunday devotional. When,
Paul Reeve. We love Paul Reeve, but don't be talking trash about Weber State.
That's right. That's what whatchamacallit had made the comment during his talk up there. Anyway, that's another topic. But
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Steve Mayfield. In our next conversation, we'll talk more about his life working in the Salt Lake City Crime Lab and some of the important cases he's worked on over his career.
I will say, in the 25 years I've been with the Salt Lake Police Department, I've been involved in the Elizabeth Smart kidnapping. Did some photography and work on that. Lori Hacking murder. The little girl that was kidnapped and killed, Destiny Norton. One of the things I've done for about 11 years was to document the activities of the protesters at the General Conference.
I hope you enjoyed that short clip from our next interview. If you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, please go to our patreon.com/gospeltangents and subscribe for just $5 a month. If you'd like a transcript of this, please click the yellow subscribe button at gospeltangents.com, and I'll send you this and all future transcripts. Also, if you'd like a paperback like we've got here, those are available at our website at Amazon.com. Just do a search for Gospel Tangents. Please get all updates at our Facebook page at facebook.com/gospeltangents. We're also on Twitter at Gospel Tangents. You can also get transcripts individually at our website, gospeltangents.com/shop. Finally, make sure that you subscribe on our Apple Podcast page. Just do a quick search for Gospel Tangents there and give us a 5-star review while you're at it. Thanks again for listening. Your support helps create more Mormon history classes and podcasts such as this, and so I really appreciate you listening. Please share with your friends. Click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here you'll see some more of our great videos. Thanks again.